Lesson 143, Review of didomi. Catherine, at this point, our readers have some good experience working with didomi. They know all 6 present tense forms. And so at this point, we can regroup and take a look at all the present tense forms together and review what we know. So we have a chart here with all the 6 present tense forms, and we have a few things underlined in this chart to help point out some basic things to our listeners and readers.
And that main underlined thing is the difference between the vowel in the middle of the word, approximately. So in the singular forms, you have that omega, didomi, didos, didosin. But in the plural, that omega is not there anymore. It changes to an omicron. So didomen, didote, didoasin.
It goes by quick when it's an omicron because that's a short vowel. And really, Catherine, this is something that applies not only to didomi, but it really applies to all me verbs.
There will be a long vowel in the singular and a short vowel in the plural. Now, the vowel won't always be omega omicron. It'll be different vowel pairs, but that same rule applies, yes.
Right. And in ancient Greek, some very, very common verbs are in fact me verbs. Like tithemi means to put something somewhere, right? Tithemi.
Mm-hmm. And then histemi is a very common one, stand.
So there are different me verbs with different kinds of vowels. Some of them will have an eta kind of vowel there. There are a few, I think, that have an alpha. But no matter what the vowel is, in the singulars, it's going to be long, and in the plurals, it's going to be short. For example, with tithemi, in the singular, it's tithemi with an eta, but in the plural, that turns into an epsilon. So this concept of me verbs having a long vowel in the singulars and then a corresponding short vowel in the plurals, that's a concept that you can take with you as you go into future Greek studies. That's something you'll see with all me verbs. Well, in the present tense, at least. One last thing before we go, Catherine. With this verb didomi and the other me verbs that they'll encounter, the vowel that changes from long in the singulars to short in the plurals, that vowel is part of the stem.
Right. It is not a thematic vowel.
So whereas a verb like trecho has a thematic vowel, a special vowel that gets plugged in after the stem, for me verbs are also known as athematic verbs, meaning that they don't have a thematic vowel. So for the verb didomi, it's not the case that delta, iota, delta is the stem, and then starting with omega, you get the personal ending. That's not the case.
Right.
What happens here is delta, iota, delta, omega. That is the stem, and then me is the ending.
Which means that unlike the omega class verbs, these verbs change their stem from singular to plural.
Yes, and so in the first person plural, the stem changes to delta, iota, delta, omicron.
Whereas with trecho, it's just trech all the way down.
We don't want to go too deep into this now because this can be overwhelming. But what we do want to simply point out is that the stem and the thematic vowel and the ending, they add up differently for verbs like trecho and for verbs like didomi. So verbs that are not me verbs and verbs that are me verbs are 2 different classes of verbs in ancient Greek, and they have different characteristics. So that's really all I want to say about it at the moment, and you'll learn more about that as you move forward in your studies.